Brodes Media.
How hungry Howie Roseman is to win another Super Bowl. And the way that you could tell he was bothered by how the final game went. He saw the roster he put together. He realized how well Jalen Hurts was playing. He saw the health of the team after all those games and all those weeks for them to still be available. It was right there at halftime. He was crushed when he spoke to the Philadelphia media for the first time after they lost. Devastated. And he was wearing it. It was extremely noticeable. These moves all confirm that. Not that I needed these moves to confirm it, but it's nonstop. He needs to get that second Lombardi. And he's walking circles around the entire league right now. Nobody can catch up. He's by far separated from the rest of the crew. Even Kansas City and all that. Kansas City is Pat Mahomes. I'm not knocking their general manager. I'm not knocking what Andy Reid does from a talent perspective. But what Howie Roseman just did, it could go down as a historic draft weekend. For some of the talent that he found later in the draft, Ringo in the fourth, before seasons began, they were thinking that it's possible that he's a top pick. Some people in way too early mocks. Yes, it was the way too early mock version of it, so I'm sure there's a lot of players who you think at one point will be way better than they are, and guys slip or guys jump up. Some no-names become first-round talent. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff happens all the time. But he did play at Georgia, and he does have a tremendous amount of skill. You can coach him up. There's no pressure. He doesn't have to step in day one and be an outside corner and go up against number twos in this league that can scare you. That's not the case. Take your time. You're 20 years old. Learn behind Darius Slay and Bradbury. He could soak it in. He could watch on the sidelines. He could study technique. You get to study Darius Slay. For someone who I know has a lot within his game, how much better can it get? I love what they did in the fourth. Very aggressive move by Howie, and Howie's ready to go. He wanted it so bad. Nightmares, I'm sure, of Jonathan Gannon. He's the type of guy that I feel will hold a grudge against Jonathan Gannon forever. And I love that, to be honest. Don't tell me they were trying to beg him to come back on his hands and knees. I'm just picturing Howie Roseman with a dartboard over at the NovaCare complex in his office and in Jeffrey Lurie's office, and they just take that dart and they throw it at the board, but the board is actually a picture of Jonathan Gannon's face. Not too long ago, where this was the most concerning time of the year, with Joel Embiid, and this will tie together. With Joel Embiid, I remember thinking the time Kawhi Leonard made that shot and Joel was crying on the court while he was leaving, it seemed like a moment where Joel would look back at that changed him forever. He watched Kawhi's run and recognized, that's what I need to do. That's what I need to be. The Sixers need me like Kawhi with Toronto. And it was the firsthand experience of pain that directed him to a different spot in his career. Whether it changed the way that he worked in the summers, whether it changed his diet, the Shirley Temples, focusing way more on the conditioning. Because there were times where he was leaning over, huffing and puffing, hands on the knees. It's the third quarter. It's the end of the second quarter. There's a lot of basketball left to be played. I think all of that he recognized by failure. Howie went through Jalen Reagor. And if this is the payoff of those miserable picks, I'll take it any day of the week. Because it seemed like that changed his direction. Now he has a different outlook on the draft. From that moment, it's been night and day different. To a degree. They still love their trenches. They still value certain positions differently than others and put more stock into winning in the ugly areas. That's been here since Andy Reid shifted it all. The other spots, though, you could see a clear change in the movement. And it's hard for me to not think that it was the way Howie was perceived and the way Howie heard the reaction of the Reagors, of Davion Taylor. They probably recognize that whatever we're using to make these decisions, whatever analytics and numbers and charts and watching certain things at pro days, whatever it is getting us not good enough football players. Davion Taylor was a linebacker who didn't play a lot of football because of his religion and he had to skip games. What the hell is Davion Taylor? What the hell is Jalen Reagor? Whatever they thought they could go off of to make selections, we need to do it differently. Now it's Nakobe Dean. And all these players, too, going back to the whole Howie thing and because it's Georgia, they've all been selected lower than you would have thought. Maybe we could chalk more fun up. Maybe we could, I was going to say chalk it up too, or we could poke more fun at it. If there were more reaches. They got who with the 10th? They drafted a guy who was projected to go in the 5th, in the 2nd? Someone who a lot of people thought would be 6th rounder? They went in the 3rd? You can make the argument for these Georgiasmans that you're stunned you acquired them where you did. For basically almost all of them. Dating back to last year. Hard not to love it.